The Las Vegas Raiders recently drafted Paris Johnson to play guard, but I've always questioned that choice. Before drafting him, they had Andre James as their center, so it seemed logical to keep James there and move Johnson to guard. However, during a game against the Kansas City Chiefs, Johnson stepped in as center when James had to leave for a couple of drives, and wow, did he impress. In my opinion, Paris Johnson is already one of the top 5 centers in the NFL. If he continues to play this position, he could become even better. I'm really excited to break down his performance from those 14 snaps he played against the Chiefs because he showed remarkable skills. Johnson is not just tough and physical, he's also incredibly smart. He processes the game faster than most players, which is something people often overlook. In those snaps, he did a fantastic job of keeping quarterback Jarrett Stidham safe, allowing him plenty of time to throw. After watching him play, I believe Johnson should be the Raiders' starting center for the rest of the season and even for his entire career. If he stays at center, I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the season people start saying he's the second best center in the league. Johnson has an impressive background. He was ranked as one of the best center prospects coming out of the 2024 NFL Draft. In fact, I've graded many centers and he was one of the highest rated. The only player I might rank higher is a guy named Ken Hinton. But honestly, Johnson has the talent to shine in the NFL, and we saw that in his brief time against the Chiefs. Now let's dive into the tape. Andre James was hurt on one play, which raised some questions. While he had an ankle injury, it's also possible the Raiders realized James might not be the best fit for the center position. This could have prompted the switch to Johnson. I can't wait to analyze the film with you. Paris Johnson has been one of the standout centers I've watched this season. I run a football scout channel focusing on offensive and defensive line play, and I'm telling you, Johnson is truly impressive. Let's take a look at his first play. The offensive line had called for a left side slide in protection. With Brock Bowers motioning out, it created a true 5-man protection scheme. Watch how quickly Johnson reacts. As soon as the ball is snapped, he moves to the left, but then he notices a blitz coming from the right. He makes a quick adjustment, stepping over to help out. He and his teammate Jordan Meredith communicate perfectly, and together they handle the defensive players, allowing the Raiders to gain 7 yards on first down. This kind of awareness is crucial for a center. If he can't process what's happening quickly, it puts everyone at risk. Another key point is how well Johnson holds his ground against defenders. He not only stops the rush, but gives Stidham a clean pocket to work with. That's an excellent rep. We'll watch every snap he played because there are plenty of impressive moments to go through. In one play that resulted in a fumble, Johnson still did a solid job against his opponent, but unfortunately, too many defenders rushed in. Let's dive deeper into the film. The Raiders faced a challenge during the game with the Chiefs simulating pressure. This means that one defensive end pretended to rush, but then dropped back into coverage. Unfortunately, the Raiders just didn't have enough blockers to handle it. Still, Paris Johnson held his ground well. He made solid contact with the defensive tackle and anchored himself, preventing any penetration. What's really impressive is that even with backups at 2 positions, Cody Whitehair at left guard and Jordan Meredith, Johnson managed to help keep the pocket clean. The running back didn't chip in for extra protection, opting to go out for a route instead. This shows how much better the offensive line performed when Johnson was in the game. If you compare Johnson to other top centers like Creed Humphrey, you'll see they share a lot of similar skills. Johnson is quickly proving he belongs among the best centers in the league. Many draft analysts rated him highly, second only to Humphrey, which speaks volumes about his potential. In one of his plays, Johnson snaps the ball, checks to see if a linebacker is blitzing, and then helps out the right guard. His physicality and awareness really set the tone and keep the quarterback clean. Thanks to his efforts, the Raiders were able to execute plays effectively. Another standout moment came when the Chiefs blitzed again. Johnson swiftly picked up a linebacker, tossing him aside and allowing the quarterback to make a nice gain. Unfortunately, that play got called back due to a penalty, But Johnson's performance against Nick Bolton was impressive. He was able to handle the pressure and maintain a clean pocket. Overall, the biggest improvement I saw in the offensive line when Johnson was in was the reduction of interior pressure. With Johnson at center, it felt like the Raiders had a solid foundation. If they choose to keep him there, it wouldn't surprise me if they realize that Andre James just wasn't cutting it anymore. Let's take a look at another play where Johnson demonstrated his awareness. In a 5-man protection scheme, he noticed that Meredith was slow out of his stance, which could lead to trouble. When a defensive tackle got past Meredith, Johnson didn't hesitate to step in and help, preventing a potential hit on the quarterback. This kind of awareness is rare for most centers, but it highlights Johnson's exceptional skill set. As he continues to get more snaps at center, I believe he will only get better. The Raiders could soon have a top 5 center in the league. For example, in another play, Cody Whitehair struggled against a defensive tackle, getting pushed back several steps. But thanks to Johnson, he was able to stabilize the pocket and prevent the collapse from the inside. Look at how the defense moves pre-snap. Linebackers and safeties shifting around can create confusion, but Johnson processes it all quickly, lending a hand to Whitehair when needed. One of the toughest jobs for any NFL offensive line is picking up blitzes, especially against a team like the Chiefs, who throw all kinds of pressure from different angles. Johnson's ability to read and react makes him invaluable in those situations. Picking up a blitz is tough, but Paris Johnson does a solid job. He first checks the left side where number 20 drops off, then he focuses on the guy Jordan Meredith is supposed to handle one-on-one. Although Meredith struggles to get to Bolton, Johnson processes the situation quickly. It's not perfect, but it shows his awareness on the field. While Amir Abdullah does most of the work on that play, it's still about Johnson's mindset and physicality. Take a look at this next play where Johnson faces off against a 3-technique defensive lineman. He doesn't just hold his ground, he hip-tosses the guy. That kind of physicality is what the Raiders need. If head coach Antonio Pierce is serious about a strong run-focused game, Johnson should be the starting center. Many people don't recognize how talented Paris Johnson is. In my opinion, he's the best center prospect I've seen since Creed Humphrey, and I know other analysts agree with me. The tape speaks for itself. Johnson looks more comfortable at center than he ever did at guard. It's worth noting that playing center can be more complex than playing guard, since centers have to snap the ball and manage protections. However, for someone like Johnson, who's young and only spent 3 years in college, center might actually suit him better. He'll only get stronger as he gains experience in the NFL. The Raiders should definitely shift Johnson back to center. He's performing impressively, and I can't wait to see how he develops. If you ask me, the Raiders should make him their future at the center position. Now, about Andre James. I know he's already got a contract, but the Raiders might want to consider trading him. Even though they're somewhat locked into him for this year and next, if they could get a 4th-round pick by taking on some of his cap hit, it would be worth it. If a team is only willing to offer a 7th-round pick, that's also something the Raiders should think about. James has consistently struggled and hasn't really developed as a player. I could show you dozens of snaps where he gets pushed around, which doesn't help the team, especially in the run game. It's not just him. Other players like Jordan Meredith and Dylan Parham have also had tough moments. But James has been a consistent liability. The difference between getting pushed back and pushing forward by 1 or 2 yards is significant. Paris Johnson can provide that push, and it would make a huge difference for the Raiders. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. I'm excited to cover the Raiders, and I really believe in Paris Johnson's potential. Let me know what you think. Thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you next time for another video.